This is a meditation and a prayer for the current situation with the family Windsor. It will end with an invocation for healing. I'm sure many people want to pray for them, but don't know how, or don't know what to pray. I'm not saying I do, but this is something I've put together to try to express myself with the hope that it might encourage and enable a bridging of the gap, even among and between those of us who have opposing views on it. Like Brexit, it's splitting people apart. I've certainly experienced this. And also, like Brexit, I feel it taps into other more unconscious places in our psyches, as if we are projecting onto it one way or another. I once received a lovely handwritten letter from King Charles after I wrote to him whilst I was serving as a vicar of a large priory church. He was Prince Charles at the time and was getting a bit of a hammering over his intentions to marry again. As a Church of England priest, I was rather disgusted by what I thought was the sheer hypocrisy of certain C of E clergy who'd objected, saying it was untenable for a future king to be a divorcee and to marry a divorcee. How could such a person become head of the established church? I wish could have written to them, these uncharitable clerics, to point out that they only have a Church of England because another king and head of the church, who got through 6 bloody wives, bloody is intentional there, as some of them ended up being given the chop. Yes, he divorced 2 of them and cut the heads off 2 more. The man who was head and founder of the Church of England divorced 2 wives and cut the heads off 2 others so he could marry again. Had these snivelling clerics forgotten this, or were they just caught up in their own judgment and self-righteous pride, 2 traits most criticized by Jesus himself? Sometimes we need to take a good, long look at ourselves to check for hypocrisy, pride, judgmentalism, projection, and so on. It affects us all. But that's all water under the bridge now, that subject. And yet there's an even more controversial and divisive issue going on with the family Windsor. And my heart goes out to them all, especially, it must be said, for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, but also for the Prince and Princess of Wales and for King Charles and the Queen Consort. I can't imagine what it's like to live inside such a giant goldfish bowl. I can remember what it's like living within a small one, though. I was a Church of England vicar when I went through a divorce. I was still a vicar when I made a real arse of myself following that divorce, and yes, it was all in the spotlight, gossiping and bitching all around. But that was minuscule compared to the long lenses, the flash photography and the continual hounding of the royals by paps. And it was this unhealthy and unhelpful spotlight that clearly made the situation what it has become. To most of us looking on, it seems like stalemate, and for the family themselves, it probably feels like it. But there's always windows of grace, opportunities for healing. Sometimes rays of pure light come through the very cracks and flaws of our lives and the situations surrounding them. I read Prince Harry's book and I found it truly heartbreaking. He's very honest about his own cracks and flaws. And yes, he also talks about other cracks, other people's cracks, even family members. But I don't read into this any venom, and certainly no hate or a trashing of the royal family like some of the more toxic elements of the press have said. I see hurt and frustration and anger, but I also see and feel a deep, heartfelt love for every member of his family. I would say some would say he's hardest on his brother and his dad, and I think that's true. It must be very hurtful for them. But sometimes we feel and express the most intense anger towards those we most intensely love. My prayer for them is that the love they all clearly have for each other may somehow overcome the hurt and the pain and the disappointment. There's a beautiful story in the Gospels, my favourite story of all, the parable of the prodigal son. In fact, I call it the parable of the two lost sons, because it portrays two brothers who in different ways end up disconnected, especially from each other. It's every bit as gritty, messy, fucked up as the story I've been talking about, but it's magical too. It's about grace. The younger son feels trapped and makes a reckless request, blows everything on wild living. The older son is dutiful and obedient, but also resentful. The father is unconditionally loving. At the end, there's some reconciliation, but not between the two sons. There is a symbolic younger son, older son, and father in every one of us. We play the different characters in different phases of our lives. Now, we could try to apply these characters of father, elder, and younger son to the people in the story we're talking about, but that would be far too simplistic. I would love each of those in the current story, not just the main three players, but all of us, all caught up in it, that's you and me too, to look deep within ourselves for the younger son, to take note of the rebel, and this could be an expression of the rebellious spirit or a projection of it. Sometimes this inner rebel is quenched and then projected, and we, like the older son, then become jealous of those who do manage to express it. But when we do play out the rebel, we can be reckless and hurtful. We may need to show a little willingness to own our actions and be sorry for those hurt by them. Also, we need to notice the older son, the dutiful one. There is a perfectionist inside us too, one who feels resentment because he's only ever tried to do the right thing and can't forgive those who rock the boat. Both these caricatures are in every single one of us, to a lesser or greater degree. And we need to notice the father, because he's there too, the God image in the story. This is the one who's there for both sons, the one who offers unconditional love, forgiveness and grace, the one who throws open his arms, welcomes back and offers a party. May we all see these three characters in ourselves and thus be able to forgive ourselves and each other. Now, King Charles sees himself as a defender of faith, protector of the world of faith, including and beyond Christianity, a good thing. And all faiths contain versions of the so-called golden rule, do unto others, etc. Therefore, I offer this following prayer, which anyone, no matter what faith or belief system you belong to, is free to use as a channel for your own prayers and intentions, for the peace and reconciliation of the family that so many of us love and support. Loving God, universal light, eternal source, ground of being, known and experienced a multitude of ways, we give thanks for this messy yet magical human existence, filled with so much opportunity as well as so much destructive potential. May we join, as people of all paths and perspectives, to pray for our beloved royal family, for deep healing and reconciliation, for a bridging of barriers and a recognition that love is more powerful than any divisions. May true light shine through the cracks and flaws, that all hurt and all pain be eased. And we ask this in and through the Spirit of the Divine One, known by many names. Amen.